Some trucks are sold to us as symbols of raw strength, ironclad durability, and unstoppable power. But behind those glossy brochures and dramatic commercials, a few of them were hiding secrets, fatal flaws so embarrassing, their makers would probably rather you never bring them up at a dinner party. Imagine buying a truck to tow your boat, only to discover it can barely tow itself home. Or thinking you've bought an indestructible workhorse, only to watch it rust faster than an abandoned bike in monsoon season. These flaws weren't just inconveniences. They were nightmares that left owners stranded, broke, or shaking their heads in disbelief. Today, we're pulling the cover off 13 trucks that looked tough but had design flaws so shocking they should have come with a warning label. Buckle up, because by the end, you'll see why some legends deserve to stay buried in the junkyard. Number 13. Chevy Colorado/GMC Canyon, 2015 to 2019. At first glance, the mid-size Chevy Colorado and GMC Canyon looked like the perfect answer to America's craving for practical but powerful trucks. They were smaller than the Silverado, easier to park, and marketed as reliable daily workhorses. But lurking beneath their modern looks and handsome interiors was a transmission that behaved less like a piece of engineering and more like a contestant on Dancing with the Stars. The 8-speed automatic, specifically the 8L45 and 8L90, quickly gained a reputation for a phenomenon owners called the dreaded shudder. At highway speeds, instead of cruising smoothly, the truck would start vibrating as if it was doing the cha-cha on cruise control. The culprit was a faulty torque converter design combined with fluid breakdown that led to harsh shifts, hesitation, and wear. Owners reported it feeling like the truck had swallowed a bag of Pop Rocks whenever they pressed the gas. To fix it, GM issued technical service bulletins, changed fluids, and later revised the design, but not before thousands of drivers were left wondering how a brand-new truck could feel so worn out so quickly. Repair bills often ran into the thousands if you were out of warranty, and some drivers swore the only way to stop the shudder was to trade the truck back in. For a vehicle sold as the dependable partner of contractors and families, having a transmission that jittered like a nervous chihuahua was not the selling point anyone wanted. Number 12. Nissan Titan, 2004 to 2007. When Nissan entered the full-size truck market with the Titan in 2004, it promised Japanese engineering blended with American muscle. On paper, the Titan had everything going for it: a big V8 engine, competitive towing, and a bold design. But then, reality hit harder than a pothole at 70 miles per hour. Owners quickly discovered that the Titan's rear differential had all the toughness of a soggy cardboard box. Towing a trailer? Sure, but don't expect that diff to last long. Stories piled up of catastrophic failures where gears shredded themselves, leaving drivers stranded and staring at repair bills big enough to ruin a weekend. And the headaches didn't stop there. The early Titans also had chronic brake issues, with rotors warping so fast you'd think they were made of soft cheese. Some owners reported replacing brakes multiple times in a single year, which is the opposite of confidence-inspiring when you're hauling serious weight. The Titan could have been Nissan's breakthrough in America's truck world, but these problems crippled its reputation early. The irony is painful. A truck designed to handle big jobs, but undone by the very parts meant to keep it moving and stopping. In the end, the Titan became less of a full-size competitor and more of a full-time headache for anyone unlucky enough to buy one in those years. Number 11. Ram 1500, 2011 to 2014. The Ram 1500 is known for its comfort, bold styling, and the kind of road presence that makes people turn their heads. But between 2011 and 2014, some Rams were less like a reliable workhorse and more like a haunted carnival ride. The villain behind this chaos was something called the TIPM, the Totally Integrated Power Module. Sounds fancy, right? Except this little black box controlled nearly all of the truck's electrical systems, and when it decided to misbehave, it turned the truck into an unpredictable nightmare. Owners reported everything from fuel pumps staying on after the key was out, to random stalling, headlights flickering, windows refusing to work, and in some cases, the truck not starting at all. Imagine being late for work, turning the key, and having your Ram just sit there silently like it's on strike. Replacing a TIPM wasn't cheap either. Costs soared into 4 figures. And even then, some owners complained the new module didn't fix everything. Lawsuits were filed, mechanics got rich, and drivers got gray hairs. A truck that looks this mean on the outside shouldn't act like a mischievous poltergeist on the inside. But for too many Ram owners, that was the reality. Number 10. Toyota Tundra, 2000 to 2003. Toyota built its reputation on reliability so bulletproof, owners often brag their vehicles could survive a zombie apocalypse. But early first-gen Tundra owners discovered a flaw so ironic, it bordered on tragic: frame rust. Yes, the very backbone of the truck, the part that holds everything together, was prone to corroding faster than a shipwreck at the bottom of the ocean. For many, this wasn't just surface rust. It was catastrophic corrosion that compromised the entire structure. Spare tire cross members snapped, brake lines rusted through, and frames literally developed holes big enough to stick your hand through. This was especially devastating because Toyota had sold the Tundra as a tough, long-lasting American-built truck. Instead, owners in cold and salty climates found their indestructible pickups turning into flaky rust sculptures. Toyota was forced to issue extended corrosion warranties and even buy back some trucks, a massive embarrassment for a company known for quality. To put it simply, you don't expect a truck marketed as a job site hero to rot away in your driveway before it even hits 100,000 miles. Yet for thousands of owners, that's exactly what happened. The Tundra's rust fiasco became a reminder that even giants in reliability can stumble in the most humiliating way. Number 9. Ford F-150, 2004 to 2008. Ford's F-150 has been America's best-selling truck for decades. But the mid-2000s models with the 5.4-liter 3-valve Triton V8 came with a nasty surprise. Something as routine as changing spark plugs turned into a horror story. Instead of simply twisting them out, these plugs were designed in 2 pieces, and over time they'd seize themselves into the cylinder head. Try to remove one, and snap. Half of it stayed stuck in the engine. What should have been a quick Saturday garage job turned into a several $100 mechanic visit, often requiring special extraction tools just to dig them out. But the drama didn't end there. These engines also suffered from ticking cam phasers and chain tensioner issues that made the truck sound more like a sewing machine than a tough workhorse. Owners dreaded maintenance, mechanics dreaded seeing them roll in, And YouTube is still full of videos of frustrated techs wrestling with broken plugs. For a truck that was supposed to symbolize rugged dependability, needing a small archaeology degree to change spark plugs wasn't the legacy Ford had in mind. Number 8. Chevy Silverado/GMC Sierra, 2007 to 2013. The Silverado and Sierra, with the 5.3-liter V8, introduced something called Active Fuel Management, or AFM. On paper, it sounded brilliant. Save fuel by shutting off half the cylinders during light driving. In practice, it was an oil-guzzling nightmare. The system led to excessive oil consumption, fouled spark plugs, collapsed lifters, and engines that aged faster than a milk carton left in the sun. Drivers were shocked to discover they needed to top off oil between regular changes, sometimes adding quarts like it was a daily vitamin. And when those lifters collapsed, it meant rough idles, misfires, and expensive repairs that could stretch into thousands of dollars. GM tried updates, deflector plates, and revised PCV systems, but the problem became notorious enough that whole businesses popped up selling AFM delete kits. For a truck that marketed itself as strong and reliable, it was ironic that the engine seemed to have more drinking problems than a college frat house. Owners bought Silverados to haul lumber and towboats, not to babysit their oil levels like a nervous parent. Number 7. Nissan Frontier, 2005 to 2010. On the surface, the mid-2000s Nissan Frontier was a practical, rugged little pickup that could handle both daily commutes and light off-road fun. But under the hood, it was hiding one of the most infamous disasters in truck history: the strawberry milkshake of death. The culprit was the radiator's integrated transmission cooler. Over time, coolant and transmission fluid mixed, creating a pink frothy mess that looked harmless but spelled doom for the transmission. Owners would notice their trucks slipping gears, shuddering, or outright failing. And when they checked the fluid, it looked like someone had blended Pepto-Bismol inside. The repair bills were brutal. A new radiator alone wouldn't save you. Once the fluids mixed, the transmission often needed a complete rebuild or replacement. Many drivers were left with repair costs higher than the truck's value. The Frontier should have been Nissan's dependable mid-size warrior. But for unlucky owners, it became a money pit with a dessert-themed diagnosis. A truck that's supposed to handle dirt roads shouldn't be brought down by something that looks like a bad milkshake order. Number 6. Nissan Navara, 2005 to 2015. While the Frontier had transmission nightmares, its overseas cousin, the Nissan Navara, suffered from something even scarier: frames that snapped in half. Owners in Salt Belt regions of Europe and beyond discovered that the D40 Navara's chassis could rust so severely that cracks appeared near the suspension mounts, sometimes leading to catastrophic breaks. Imagine driving down the road and suddenly realizing your truck has decided to fold in the middle like a cheap lawn chair. That's not a design flaw. It's a design tragedy. Rust is expected in older trucks, but this wasn't your typical cosmetic corrosion. These were structural failures that made the truck unsafe to drive. In some countries, governments pressured Nissan into offering buybacks and inspections, while in others, owners were left scrambling to find welding shops just to keep their trucks roadworthy. The Navara was marketed as tough and adventurous, perfect for farmers, builders, and off-road explorers. Instead, it became infamous for crumbling under the very conditions it was supposed to dominate. If a truck's frame can't be trusted, nothing else really matters. Number 5. Jeep Gladiator, 2020. When Jeep finally brought back a pickup with the Gladiator, fans were thrilled. A Wrangler with a bed? Off-road muscle with utility? It sounded like a dream. But for those who opted for the manual transmission, that dream came with a fiery catch. Literally. The clutch pressure plate was prone to overheating and, in some cases, breaking apart. That wasn't just an inconvenience. It posed a genuine fire risk. Imagine heading up a rocky trail, smelling something strange, and realizing your brand-new Gladiator might be seconds away from roasting marshmallows under the hood. The problem was serious enough to spark recalls, with Jeep admitting the clutch assembly could fail in spectacular fashion. For a truck marketed as trail-rated and built to go anywhere, nobody expected flammable clutch to be part of the off-road package. Owners wanted to conquer mountains, not worry about their ride turning into a campfire. While fixes came later, the damage to the Gladiator's early reputation was done. Nothing ruins an adventure quite like calling for a tow truck halfway up a trail because your clutch decided to impersonate a barbecue grill. Number 4. Ram 1500 EcoDiesel, 2014 to 2019. The idea of a half-ton diesel sounded like genius. Torque for towing, better fuel economy, and all the rugged charm of a Ram 1500 with an efficient 3.0-liter EcoDiesel 5.6. Unfortunately, the execution was more of a headache than a breakthrough. These trucks became notorious for issues with their emission systems, particularly the EGR cooler. When it cracked, it could leak coolant into the intake, sometimes causing engine fires. Yes, the EcoDiesel could literally go up in smoke. Beyond that, owners complained of constant limp modes, clogged emissions equipment, and high repair bills that erased any savings at the fuel pump. Ram had to issue major recalls, and some owners ended up spending more time at the dealership than on the road. For a truck that promised to blend efficiency with capability, the EcoDiesel often felt like it needed its own dedicated mechanic just to survive. Nothing kills enthusiasm for towing your camper like wondering if the truck pulling it might break down, or worse, catch fire before you get there. Number 3. Ford Super Duty F250/F350, 2003 to 2007. The Ford Super Duty lineup has always been built for serious work, towing, hauling, and heavy-duty abuse. But the 6.0-liter Power Stroke diesel from 2003 to 2007 became one of the most infamous engines Ford ever put under a hood. On paper, it looked like a beast. Strong power output, modern design, and serious towing credentials. In practice, it was a ticking time bomb. Weak head studs led to blown head gaskets under heavy load. The EGR cooler clogged and cracked, the oil cooler plugged up, and the fuel injection control module failed just for good measure. Owners who tried to work these trucks hard often found themselves stranded or writing massive repair checks. Many spent thousands on what came to be called bulletproofing, upgraded head studs, new EGR coolers, aftermarket fixes, just to make the truck reliable. It got to the point where diesel enthusiasts would joke that the 6.0-liter didn't just need repairs, it needed a personality transplant. Ford's Super Duty should have been the king of job sites, but instead, it became a cautionary tale. For many unlucky owners, the 6.0-liter Power Stroke was less about power and more about powering the bank accounts of repair shops. Number 2. Toyota Tacoma 1995 to 2004. Toyota's Tacoma earned legendary status for toughness and reliability, especially among off-road fans. But first-generation Tacomas, especially those built between 1995 and 2004, had a hidden weakness that undercut their reputation: frame rot. The very skeleton of the truck was prone to rusting out in brutal fashion. In colder climates, where salt was used on winter roads, owners started discovering their frames had holes, cracks, and, in some cases, were close to snapping in two. A truck that could conquer trails and deserts wasn't supposed to crumble from a few winters on salted highways. The issue got so widespread that Toyota ended up launching massive inspection and buyback programs. Some owners even had their entire frames replaced, an almost unheard-of move in the industry. The Tacoma name survived because Toyota stood behind its trucks, but the sting of those rusting frames is still remembered today. For a vehicle that inspired cult-like loyalty, nothing was more shocking than realizing your indestructible pickup was rusting away faster than an old garden gate. It was a painful reminder that even legends have skeletons in the closet, sometimes literally. Number 1. Ford F-150, 1997 to 2003. The Ford F-150 of the late 90s and early 2000s was America's best-selling truck. And for good reason. It looked tough, had solid engines, and was marketed as the everyday hero of the road. But this hero had a dangerous flaw lurking under its hood: the cruise control deactivation switch. It sounds harmless, but this little piece of wiring had a nasty habit of shorting out, and in some cases, it could cause the truck to catch fire. The worst part? It could happen even when the truck was parked. Imagine heading to bed, only to wake up and find your garage glowing orange because your F-150 decided to barbecue itself overnight. The recall was massive, covering millions of trucks, and Ford scrambled to replace the faulty switches. Still, the damage to the truck's reputation was severe. Owners joked that the F-150 didn't need an alarm system. Its built-in self-destruct feature would handle that. For the country's most popular truck, it was a humbling reminder that even a small, overlooked component can have catastrophic consequences. So there you have it. 13 trucks that looked tough, sounded tough, and sold tough, but underneath carried flaws that nobody really likes to talk about. From transmissions that jittered like nervous dancers to frames that rusted away like old tin cans, each of these trucks had a fatal weakness that turned pride of ownership into frustration. If there's one lesson here, it's that no truck, no matter how bold the marketing, can escape the reality of poor engineering or bad design decisions. And yet, these flaws are part of what makes the truck world fascinating. They remind us that for every indestructible legend, there's a cautionary tale waiting in the used market. So, which one shocked you the most? Did you ever own one of these trucks and survive the nightmare firsthand? Drop your story in the comments. I guarantee you're not alone. And stick around, because next time we're diving into the trucks that came back stronger after disaster, proving that even the worst mistakes can lead to redemption.